How y'all doing today? Friends, family, Facebook, YouTube. This is Ivan coming at you again with another lesson. Today entitled, No Backbiting. No Backbiting. For some of you who don't know what that means, it means malicious talk about someone who was not present. Malicious talk about someone who was not present. Basically, you're talking behind someone's back, alright? But before we begin, I want to thank the Most High Ahaya, His Son, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, and also the Ruach HaKodesh. Before we begin, let's get our precepts out of the way. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 28 verses 9 through 10. Isaiah chapter 28 verses 9 through 10. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Verse 11. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. This people. Let's go to Psalms chapter 119 verses 104. Verses 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way. Let's drop down to verse 128. Therefore I esteem all thy precepts concerning all things to be right, and I hate every false way. Let's drop down again to verse 134. Deliver me from the oppression of man, so will I keep thy precepts. Okay? Y'all bear with me. Let me adjust this camera for a second here. Alright, hopefully this is better. Alright. Now let's go into the Book of Mormon here. Let's go into the Book of Mormon, Doctrines and Covenants, and let's get some more precepts out of here. Let's go to Doctrines and Covenants, chapter 42, verse 12. And again, the elders, priests, and teachers of this church shall teach the principles of my gospel, which are in the Bible and the Book of Mormon, in the which is the fullness of the gospel. Okay, so when we teach this gospel, we need to use the Bible and also the Book of Mormon. All right, let's go to Doctrines and Covenants, chapter 42, verses 61. If thou shalt ask, thou shalt receive revelation upon revelation, knowledge upon knowledge, that thou may know the mysteries and peaceful things, that which bringeth joy, that which bringeth life eternal. Okay, so when we read our Bible line upon line, the Most High gives us revelation upon revelation. When we read our Bible precept upon precept, the Most High gives us knowledge upon knowledge. All right, now that we are done with our precepts, let's get into Doctrines and Covenants, chapter 136. And we are going to read verses 17 through 33, okay? And I will use the Bible to back up the Book of Mormon, Doctrines and Covenants, all right? Now let's start at verse number 17 here. Go thy way and do as I have told you. And fear not thine enemies, for they shall not have power to stop my work. Fear not thine enemies, for they shall not have power to stop my work. Verse 18. Zion shall be redeemed in mine own due time. And if any man shall seek to build up himself, and seeketh not my counsel, he shall have no power, and his folly shall be made manifest. Verse 20. Seek ye and keep all your privileges, one with another, and covet not that which is thy brother's. 21. Keep yourselves from evil, to take the name of the Lord in vain. For I am the Lord your God, even the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, and of Isaac, and of Jacob, Verse 22. I am he who led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. God is saying, I am he who led the children of Israel out of Egypt. Let's get a precept. Let's go to Exodus. Chapter 13, verses 18. Verse 18. But God led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went up hornless out of the land of Egypt. Now, verse 22, God is saying, I am he who led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Let's get another precept. Let's go to Amos. Amos chapter 3, and we're going to read verses 1 through 2. Verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all of your iniquities, of all your sins. All right? So let's go back and repeat verse number 22 here in Doctrines and Covenants. All right? I am he who led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, and my arm was stretched out in the last days, to save my people Israel. So the Most High is saying that in the last days, he is going to save his people Israel. Now, let's get a precept on that right there. Let's get a precept. And we're going to go all the way back to Genesis. Genesis chapter 15, and we are going to read verses 13 and 14. Genesis chapter 15, 13 and 14, starting at verse number 13. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Verse 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. All right? Now, we're going to precept Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 and 14, and we are going to get into the Sefer, the Torah, okay? And we're going to be in Abraham chapter 32, and we're going to read verses 1 through 6. Therefore, hear Abraham, and see, behold, your seventh generation shall go with you, and they will go out into an alien land, and they will enslave them and oppress them as for 1 hour of the emperor's age. But of the nation whom they shall serve, I am the judge. And Adonai said this too, Have you heard, Abraham, what I told you, that your tribe will encounter in the last days? In the last days, Abraham, having heard, accepted the words of Yah in his heart. Okay? Now Abraham's seed in the last days is going into slavery. So let's get back into the Book of Mormon here. All right, let's start off at verse number 22. I am he who led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, and my arm is stretched out in the last days to save my people Israel. In the last days, Most High is saying that he's going to save his people Israel. Okay, now I brought forth to you out of Genesis that the children of Israel in the last days is going to be in slavery exactly 400 years, okay? I also came to you in the book of Abraham, backing that up, that Abraham's tribe in the last days is going to be in slavery, okay? So what the Most High is saying, that in the last days, he's coming to save us, Israel. He's coming to save us. All right? Now let's go to verse number 22. Cease to contend one with another. Cease to speak evil one of another. Cease to speak evil one of another. Now let's precept that with Doctrines and Covenants, chapter 20, verses 54. Doctrine and Covenants, chapter 20. Matter of fact, let's go up one verse. Start on verse 53. The teacher's duty is to watch over the church always, and be with and strengtheneth them. Verse 54. And see that there is no iniquity in the church, neither hardness with each other, neither lying, backbiting. There's our title today. Backbiting, okay? Nor evil speaking. Okay? Let's go back to Doctrines and Covenants, chapter 136, and we're at verse number 23, okay? Cease to contend one with another. Cease to speak evil one of another, okay? The Most High don't like backbiting. The Most High doesn't like you talking behind someone else's back when they're not there, okay? Verse number 24. Cease drunkenness, and let your words tend to edifying one another. And let your words tend to edifying one another. Let's precept that with 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 15. But as he which have called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversations. Be ye holy in all manner of conversation. Meaning, cease to speak evil one to another. Okay, Israel? Now, verse 25. If thou borrowest of thy neighbor, thou shalt restore that which thou hast borrowed. And if thou canst not repay them, go straightway and tell thy neighbor, lest he condemn thee. Okay? Verse 26. If thou shalt find that which thy neighbor has lost, thou shalt make diligent search till thou shalt deliver it to him again. 27. Thou shalt be diligent in preserving that which Salakia. Let me start over. Thou shalt be diligent in preserving what thou hast, that thou mayest be a wise steward. For it is a free gift of the Lord thy God, and thou art his steward. Okay? Verse 28. If thou art married, what does that mean to be married? What does that mean to be married? Let's get that real quick. To be merry means to be cheerful and lively, okay? Verse 28. If thou art married, praise the Lord with singing, with music. Here at the Church of Christ, we play a little music in the background. We don't want to bore you or put you to sleep here, okay? With music, with dancing, and with prayer of praise and thanksgiving. If thou art sorrowful, call on the Lord thy God with supplication, that your souls may be joyful. Fear not thine enemies, for they are in my hands, and I will do my pleasure with them. The Most High is saying, fear not your enemies, Israel. Fear not your enemies. The Most High is going to put curses on them. The Most High will kill our enemies. All right? Now, let's precept that with Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 7. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 7. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuteth thee. Let's also get another precept here. Let's go to Exodus chapter 23, verse 22. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, and do all that speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thy adversaries. Alright? So the Most High is saying that I will be an enemy unto your enemies. Alright? Now, let's repeat verse 17 over in the where I first started here. Verse 17. He says, go thy way, and do as I have told you, and fear not thine enemies, and fear not thine enemies, for they shall not have power to stop my work. My work. Alright? Verse 31. My people must be tried in all things, that they may be prepared to receive the glory that I have for them, even the glory of Zion. And he that will not bear chastisement is not worthy of my kingdom. So if you're bearing chastisement, the Most High is saying that you is not worthy to walk into the kingdom. Alright? Let him that is ignorant learn wisdom, by humbling himself and calling upon the Lord his God, that his eyes may be open, that he may see, and his ears open, that he may hear. Okay, verse 33, our last verse. For my spirit is sent forth unto the world, to enlighten the humble and contrite, and to the condemnation of the ungodly. Of the ungodly. Now remember, the title today is No Backbiting. No Backbiting, Salakia. Alright? The Most High says to cease to contend with one another. Cease to speak evil one of another. Okay? Cease drunkenness, and let your words tend to be edifying one another. We need to edify one another, Israel. Okay? No more backbiting. No more backbiting. It's late. It's 12 o'clock almost. Hopefully this lesson was edifying for you guys today. And stay tuned. Stay tuned for the next. And remember, no backbiting. No backbiting. Alright?